Welcome to another episode of Capacity. Today we have Chris and Sarah, a father and daughter duo that own two businesses, APS and IMC in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. They serve a variety of different industries. They do fabrication, they do machining, they make a lot of really cool stuff for a lot of different industries. But welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Tell us what you guys do. Tell us how you started. I know you wanted to be a roboticist since you were a kid in the 1980s. Would love to dig into that, but tell us your stories.
Yeah, you asked me that question earlier, and I don't recall when I thought, okay, I want to get into robotics. Like, why robotics? I don't know where that even came from.
1984, most people didn't even know that robotics existed. They barely had personal computers.
Maybe that song, Mr. Roboto, I don't know. But so that was my goal. Well, I was working in the woods, I think labor-intensive work for my father, logging, and I knew I wanted to get a degree, and maybe that's what it was. I wanted the robotics to do the work instead of me, I thought maybe. So that's kind of the path I went down, and from there I knew we were poor, living in a trailer, so I wanted to go to the Army, pay for some of the college, go to college, and get into that industry.
What was robotics like in the mid-'80s? Like everybody now, there's a lot of new startups that are doing automated vision-based welding and all this other stuff, but what was robotics in 1984?
From what I recall, and then later on when I actually got graduated, it was more pick and place, part handling, material handling. My first company that I started, we were taking parts from injection molding machines and placing them down, trimming the plastic. Maybe that's kind of where I decided to go. I know that it required a few different backgrounds, electrical, mechanical, and computer engineering. So I was fascinated by it. I think maybe in high school too, I had a Commodore 64 and I was doing some programming, thought, it's pretty neat.
Was there a resistance to it at the time? Like, what did the industry feel like? Because right now there's some resistance to new technology. What was it like 40 years ago?
Well, I think it was even worse, than it probably is now. But I think they quickly saw the opportunity, instead of paying someone, it was probably challenging to get somebody to simply move parts from a hot mold and take them out and put them somewhere. So I thought there was a lot more acceptance than I really initially thought, and I think everyone thinks initially that, they're going to take jobs, right? Because that was the big concern.
And still is today.
It still is today, yeah. So that was a big concern then, and I think that was a lot easier than I thought to overcome, at least the customers that I dealt with, which were mostly automotive at the time.
And how old was Sarah at the time?
Well, and that started, in the military, that's when she was born in Germany. And then 4 years of college. So you were probably 7, 7, 8.
Did you get to play with the robots as a kid?
They were in the back. She wasn't allowed in the back.
I wasn't, yes. That was off limits. Conference room was always allowed in.
Yeah, conference room. They were kids. They'd bring me dinner all the time because I didn't really get to see them much. Mm-hmm. But I do recall I coached your softball team.
You did?
Yep. Coached softball and baseball for them. So
never missed a game.
Yes. I should send you that picture of the softball team.
Really? Am I in it?
You still have the picture in your garage? It's a nice mustache,
that's right.
Remember?
That was a baseball team, yeah.
Did you guys win?
We went to state.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The Little League team, we sponsored a Little League team, and I think we did pretty good. I don't recall. It was tough to keep all those kids under control in Little League. But when you did softball, it was a lot of fun. We were very competitive.
So was robotics what you thought it was? Was it the type of work that you thought it was? Was it as advanced as you thought it would be? Like, what were your
impressions? I don't think it was. Thinking about after I started the company, just moving material around, I wanted to do more. I think I ultimately wanted to help disabled people, people that are missing arms and hands, and there was none of that dexterity or anything that's out there now. So I think I'd still be doing it today if it wasn't for 9/11, and everything crashed. But Yeah, it was definitely not what I expected it to be. A lot simpler.
Do you think that background changed the way you think about manufacturing today?
What do you mean by that?
Very few people that I meet in manufacturing have a really rich and early background in robotics. There's a lot more automation today, but do you think that experience changes the way you think about like how to make things?
Current manufacturing? Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Our shop. I mean, we have a machine that's got automatic bar feeders. One's got a robot on it. IMC. We have 3 robotic welders. Really pushed to implement those, and we're going to continue to do that. So it's not as challenging as a lot of people. I think a lot of people are afraid to do it, where now you almost have to.
Do you have like a soft spot for all the automation engineers that come in?
Yes,
give them
of course.
Free reign to do whatever they need to.
I was part of the first installation, even as an owner. Yeah, I was. Yeah, so didn't do as much as I used to do, but helped quite a bit. So
you're a roboticist. 9/11 happens. Everything crashes. How do you roll that from that into starting a business in Michigan?
So we were originally from the Upper Peninsula. We were living in Port Huron. After the crash, the company that bought my assets, they hired me for a period of time. Meanwhile, Sarah and her mom and brother went back to the UP, lived out of grandma's basement at the time. And I moved up and got a job at a large machine shop up in the Upper Peninsula.
And how old were you at the time, Sarah?
14.
Were you like, robotics, what a mistake?
No, I didn't know much about it. So are you talking about when we first moved to the UP?
Yeah.
Yeah, 14. Yep.
But it was stressful. That whole time was stressful.
What led you to the company that you went to after that?
I knew some people that lived up there, and they said this is a great company. There's a lot of opportunity. It's a fairly large company in the Upper Peninsula. And I had mentioned to the owner, and when I had the interview, that I was, I owned a robotics company, and he was very excited about that. And he said, we want to start a group to automate our CNC machines. So I had led that for about 5-6 years, and then got promoted into purchasing and director of purchasing, and ultimately got a small piece of the ownership of that company.
What did you do to automate the machines? Like, was it very different than what it is now, or what was it like at the time?
No, it was all pick and place. Part removal, part manipulation. I think they've gone a little further now. There's like grinding and cleaning and more tactile application, but it was just part removal. Hard to find people, and across 3 shifts. It was a big shop, so.
Same problems as today.
Same problems. Yeah, hard to find people. Everybody, they're expensive, and repetitive work is really hard for anybody to do.
You talked earlier about that position you had, and from a purchasing perspective, there was another calamity that happened. You lived through that. Tell me about it.
2008, 2009. We lost a large percentage of our business. I know there was some challenges in the economy, and I think that things were slowing down. The owner was spending money a little foolishly, but
even as things were crashing.
Yeah, I think he realized it at some point in time and decided to, hold back. We had cut, oh my goodness, 50% of our staff at the time. There were very few people working. Everybody that was working was very efficient. I think at the time we didn't realize how heavy we were, top heavy. So we were saving money. We were running efficient. We were trying to get product in the door. And he really, really not only appreciated that, but there was a few of us that he literally said, hey, you're doing great. I want to give you a percentage of this organization. And even at the time, we weren't sure if their doors were going to be locked when we came in the next day. We were always taking bets on when that was going to happen, but never did.
Was the feeling that you were going to make it? Like, did you?
No. No, we were just wondering when, and I saw the books, I saw the numbers, and we were able to keep product coming in the door, knowing that we owed that supplier so much money, but they were in the same boat. They needed to keep product going out the door in order for them, so they were banking on us to make it. So somehow, some way, we found a way to keep product coming in, raw material, and then product going out as well.
Week by week.
Week by week, every single week. We had, 600 suppliers. I probably talked to every one of them twice a week.
When was the moment where you were like, it's going to be okay?
I had this great big Excel spreadsheet, and I was kind of mapping the over 60, over 90, current, and it started to come down after about 7 months of that. And I thought, okay, we're heading in the right direction. And I shared everything with the supply base. So they were hopeful.
Well, not everybody was doing that. You're probably one of very few people that were that open.
They told me that. I made a lot of very great business relations from that experience.
Was the owner of the company reluctant to let you share that information, or was there some trust there?
100% trust. He wasn't there. His health was not doing well either. So he was like, good job. So it was tough.
So you pushed that company through it. Then what? Got bored?
I don't want to say bored. Maybe I did.
Kidding.
I think, maybe because I think I mentioned early on that, once you're an entrepreneur, you really want to do that for yourself. I'm doing this for that many companies. I'm doing this great job for a company, and I'm collecting a paycheck, even though I own a small percentage. I really want to do this for my company.
So you started the robotics company when you were young.
26.
And
no idea what I was doing.
Closed it when you were young.
Yes, 32.
6 years. How long did you grind it through with this company?
14 years.
14 years. So you had a taste of the entrepreneurship bug and took a 14-year break and decided you couldn't hang on any longer.
I think I felt like I finally knew enough. I think I told you earlier at 26, I had no idea what I was doing, so I wasn't afraid. To do it the next time, you want to make sure you at least have, in APS, I was working full time, and I bought some CNC machines. And that was in 2012 before I left full time.
And you're operating these machines at night on the weekends?
Yeah, I had a one-man show. My son was coming over every once in a while and working. But so that was how I was just kind of starting that side of it.
Did you know you were going to make that your thing, or was it really just dipping the toes in the water?
That was more of a excuse to have a business. There's some benefits of having a business. There's some expenses you can run through there, and there's some nice things there. I really never wanted to grow that company. I didn't think about growing that company. I really didn't know that much about machining, even though I worked at this machine shop for 14 years. A little bit, but not much. A couple of years later, the owner had an opportunity. A banker came to him, said, "Hey, this company's in trouble. It sounds like a great opportunity. Do you know anyone?" And the owner at that point in time said, "Yes, I know a guy. He wants to go back out on his own. Let's be a good fit for him."
So this is IMC.
This is IMC.
So now you have an accidental business and then another business that's struggling, and those are the two things you're working on.
Yeah, in a huge 55,000 square foot building.
And this is less risk and better than 26 and having no fear?
I don't know. I think I felt like I knew a little bit, and the company that was struggling had a really great product. And they just...
And you knew it when you looked at the
felt
business.
It. Yeah, I really did. It was been around since 1975. They had all the pieces in place. They had a huge backlog. They just, at that time, they were doing so poorly they couldn't buy raw material to make the product. So if we put a little bit of effort into that and some money...
Sounds easy.
Oh, it sounds like a piece of cake. I was a little nervous this time, though. So I actually have a business partner on the IMC side. He was renting from me. He was a gas and weld supply guy that I met in the hallway at my building. And I said, "Jim, do you want to buy a steel fabrication shop?" And he has a full-time job and a little machine and a little supply shop? And he's like, sure.
That's just how business gets done in Michigan. I
Right.
guess, right?
Absolutely. We didn't even shake hands. I think next day we went and signed our lives away,
Wow. Well, we're going to time out there because I'm assuming this whole time, Sarah, you grew up in a robotics company. You probably were a machinist by the time you were 15.
Oh, absolutely.
And you were starting a competing business to your dad. And,
oh my gosh, absolutely.
well, catch us up. So we know where you were at 14. What happened since then?
Graduated high school, had all these plans to go to Michigan State University. I only applied to one college. I knew that was my plan.
We visited there, didn't we?
Yes, I had my roommate.
Were you going to study robotics as well?
No, I was a math geek. I love math, love science. But actually I was a business major. That was what I wanted to do because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do.
Even though you'd went through all that pain, witnessed all that pain.
Yeah,
you still
it's
wanted to be a
amazing
business
that I
major.
didn't want to follow in his footsteps. So yeah, I didn't end up going to Michigan State. I had some friends that were like, why don't you stick behind and go to community college with us for 1 year and then you can go to Michigan State. Okay, fine. I'll save some money. I'm doing this all on my own. I'm going to work a couple jobs and pay for it. Yep, that sounds like a great idea. So I did. But that 1 year turned into 4. And my one job turned into 3 jobs. And I ended up switching from the community college and took all my classes online through University of Phoenix, which worked out. Got my bachelor's degree in business. And then I met my son's father and I had my son, which was awesome. And then shortly after, I found a job in sales, which
selling machines or machine components,
cell phones, believe it or not.
I see.
And I loved it. Loved what I did. It was super fun.
And nowhere in your head is working
machining
in manufacturing.
or my dad.
0% dad, 0% manufacturing.
Nope, never was even on the radar. So worked for this company, moved up the ladder, moved around quite a bit, moved out of town, and took my son with me. And then I think it was 2017, I had child custody case that went wrong. And at that time, I had to make a choice between my career and being a part-time mom, which that wasn't even an option. Being a mom is my most important job. So I went to my dad and I said, hey, looking for a job. I knew nothing about manufacturing.
In 2017, you have APS, you have IMC, you have this struggling company. How big was APS? Like, what was the situation?
Well, we were talking earlier. I brought in somebody to help grow it, and he was growing it all right, but he was growing it not profitably. So I think he was a great machinist. He had hired great machinists around him. But
the parts were great.
Parts were amazing. Like the customers were getting an amazing deal, but we were losing money crazy. I mean, more than we ever have. So I was hoping that Sarah, I could talk her into coming back to Escanaba and fixing this. So she fit right in soon there day one.
Absolutely.
I mean, there was 5-6 guys that were all machinists and
a millennial,
most
female,
people older
at a machine shop.
Eating avocado toast in the break
I
room.
fit right in.
With your Starbucks in the morning.
Yes.
Yep.
No, it was really difficult at first.
She had to get a tattoo.
A sleeve, actually.
From day one, it was rough.
It was really rough. Yeah.
What was your first day like? New industry. Did you read a bunch of books? Watch YouTube videos?
I did. Just what was a CNC machine? I mean,
what was
it about? What was a print? How to read a blueprint? I remember
Did you get a bunch of training from your dad?
I remember the first week I said to him, I said, what am I going to do? He said, well, we have a quality audit coming up. Here's the ISO manual. Can you help us?
Yes.
That was my training.
And she helped both companies pass that quality audit.
So that was the extent. But that was an interesting first few months, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I think getting the hands dirty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jumped on a machine. That really helped.
Ran apart.
Yeah.
Cut something,
let's dive
deburred
into
something,
this.
CNC'd something.
Right. I mean, I'll never forget, had a couple of guys, I remember hearing them overhearing him talk about me. Oh,
While
gosh,
you're
she's
running the
never going to
machine?
last. And I'm like, if there's anything that motivates me more is someone saying that I can't do anything.
You think they knew you heard them?
Oh, they didn't know. I knew. And I'm like, that's the most motivating thing I'm ever going to hear. So, yeah.
Yep.
Well,
But-
I mean, you're glossing over a lot. You join, you have to pass
Yes.
like a quality audit. Your dad doesn't
Quality
think it's wrong
audit.
at all.
I've been busy. I'm working on the other
He's
side.
busy. He's busy.
Yeah. And I
So-
knew, I was funding the operation. So dig in, find out what's going wrong and try to fix it,
Yeah.
And somebody I could trust, obviously, so
Were you like meeting all the time about it? Like, hey, Sarah, what'd you find? Like, what's wrong? What's going on?
I was looking at the P&L every week and saying, okay, what's this? What's that? And she was digging into it.
For sure. Yeah, I vented to you a lot those first few months, for sure.
What did it feel like to you? Was it like, I have this intuition that this is what's wrong, but I don't know enough to be super certain? Like, how did that
Absolutely.
communication happen?
Yeah, I think so. And I, especially like when those first few months, like just not knowing anything about manufacturing, not being able to like, hey, this doesn't seem right. Like there's huge gaps. Why are we doing this? Can you help explain, I'm being told from this leader as to why A plus B equals C, but this doesn't make any sense. Can you explain this to me? And then he'd be like, well, that doesn't really make
That
sense.
doesn't make
either.
sense. No, I mean, she had a business, and the other thing was at this mobile company, she was moving up so quickly. They were training her to do so much more. So she was getting all this business training and more so than I even realized at the time. So she really understood, the bottom line is important, and culture and whatnot that wasn't there. It was a bad culture. And so
What was the culture like? And how did you let it happen, Chris? It's
I
your
wasn't
company.
involved. I know that's the problem. It never was a large issue because it was kind of like it always made enough to cover the cost. And this one guy who wanted to grow it, I just kind of trusted too much in him, I think, and it kind of backfired on me. So he grew it. It just wasn't profitable.
Yeah, it was just an unhappy environment. It was very unproductive. There was
Was it
nothing lean
unhappy
about
between you and them, or was everyone?
everybody all around. It wasn't just me.
It was a really poor culture, which I
Yeah.
did let happen. But then I hired you to fix it. You're great. Thank you.
So what'd you do? What was the secret?
So obviously it's about getting the respect. That's where it starts. And I think that it all starts with showing them respect. And that, caring about the people that you work with. I take time out of my day every day to talk to the people that work on our team. And I truly do care about the people that work with us. And that extra 10 minutes that we talk every day, it pays tenfold throughout the day. There were some people that, weeded themselves out. That naturally kind of happened. And we took on some new faces. We implemented changes. We've added new technologies throughout the company that made their lives easier, which definitely helped. We've added motivational things that make their jobs more fulfilling. I'm all about helping people. So promoting the people that we have within, we're all about doing that, I think is huge.
Yeah, both companies.
Yeah.
How long until you felt like you were respected? And what did how did you know? Like, when did you know?
Oh, gosh. Truly respected, probably about a year. Yeah.
That's pretty fast, actually.
You think?
From a toxic culture to turning it around into a positive one where you're respected and coming from no manufacturing background, that's
Thanks.
really fast.
Appreciate it.
A lot of people
Spend their whole
left.
careers.
Yeah,
Oh.
exactly. And still aren't respected, but I think it's about, unfortunately, having to let it go of the people that didn't fit in. And if you were fighting the system and you weren't helping the system, it's pretty clear. So we brought a lot of people in to work kind of as a team. And
Yeah, and there's still people from that original crew that are still there today.
Yes.
So it wasn't like we started over.
correct.
Have you had conversations with them about that?
Yeah,
period?
and they agree. And their attitudes are totally different. They're like, God, this place.
Mhm.
Actually, yeah.
That's
neat.
pretty cool. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of that. Or for her, actually, of her.
What are some of the things that you did or pushed for that were, to gloat about how you were right about something that was pushed back on in the beginning?
Like specifically? What
Yeah,
do you
anything.
mean? Oh gosh, I don't know.
I think the culture, weeding out the bad eggs, the bad apples or whatever you could say.
Yeah.
I mean, that helps. I'm like I can't mention the name, but the last person that was hanging on, when we let him go, everybody was so,
Relieved.
there was a huge relief. And now everybody opened up and let's work together. Where before they were worried about pointing something out because this person would ridicule them or make them feel bad. That's a dumb idea.
I think there's I don't know how to explain it, but how to ride the accountability, to be able to hold them accountable, but at the same time, show them that respect too. There was that fine line of finding that balance. But yeah, we've got such a great team right now. Super proud of them.
On both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Most people can't make that maneuver because they don't believe it's possible or they're too afraid of losing good people. What gave you the confidence to just push for that?
It was miserable. we lost our
Fake it
best,
till you make it.
our best machinist. Our best machinists had to leave, both of them.
And I found now we actually have, we're more productive now with less machining talent because we have a better culture.
Yeah, 100%.
So this whole time you're just kind of working separately. You're at IMC, she's at APS.
Yeah.
You're meeting sometimes, maybe sharing some ideas and resources, but
the same roof, literally next door, and APS does work for IMC and IMC does work for APS. But early on, it was always, somebody was trying to pull something over on her, hey, we have to buy this tool because it's the only way to do this. And she was like, I don't know. I mean, does that seem right? No, it's not right. She taught, I don't know how you learned how to read prints, but she never read a print before. And now she's...
And to say that I'm an expert on machining is a lie. I'm not by any means.
But you know enough to be dangerous and can read a print.
One of my goals is to learn more about it. I would love to be just as dangerous as the guy, some of our engineers that we have.
What was the best way for you to learn coming from the outside?
Hands on, for sure. I watch a lot of YouTube videos too.
Mm-hmm.
Such a nerd.
I did too. Mm-hmm. So I learned.
And what were you doing at IMC? Just hanging out, doing nothing,
nothing.
Watching your daughter struggle, and
golfing, and
only giving her one time a week to vent, and that was really it.
Right.
Yeah, just golfing. No. So at that time, we were bringing on automation at IMC. There was a lot going on, and I was involved quite a bit on the robotics. Bringing in the robotic welders and whatnot. So I was doing a lot of that. There was a lot of things going on. And when I got asked to get involved at APS, it was more from a top down, okay, what do you think of this? Does this seem like an issue? I probably put a couple hours a week during that time over at APS, maybe more. I mean, Jim, if you ask my business partner, he probably thinks I worked over half the time.
So you said when you bought IMC, it was distressed. It was going through a rough patch.
Yes.
What was it like? What was the situation, and how did you fix it? Did you fix it? Was it an accident? Was it on purpose? What'd you do?
No. So that's how we ended up buying it. The bank was going to close on it. I mean, they owed so much money; they weren't making payments. They were literally cutting fixtures that they built apart because they couldn't get steel to actually build the part right.
Wow.
It was really bad. And walking through, it looked like a pretty easy fix. At the time, there was 3 separate buildings, and they were literally bringing product, steel across the road into another building in the snow and the rain, that was getting rusted. They had a separate building for sandblasting because they had to bring the product outside.
Sounds like a quality nightmare.
It was a quality nightmare.
How'd you get them to pass that audit?
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't a part of that during that time.
We moved it right away. I had that building. It was empty, other than the few machines of APS. So at that time, we moved it all under one roof, and that helped tremendously.
What gave you the clarity to see those obvious things that organization didn't see themselves?
Just some experience. And, I think back to to some of the larger companies I worked for, and there was a lot of training, the lean manufacturing, the 5S, and there's just a lot of things, moving product around that doesn't add value. You could see there was a lot of inefficiencies there. So it was fairly quickly to turn it around, and then reinvesting, and buying new machines. The other thing I thought of is we ended up buying a competitor out in 2017, which is when you were taking a lot of that on too. So I had a lot of things going on other than golf. I'm not even a good golfer.
So you streamlined a lot of stuff. You made all these quick decisions. How long did it take to turn that around?
We were profitable the next year, but in order to sustain that profitability, we needed to invest in equipment. So, and I didn't know anything about welding before I bought this shop. I knew how to stick weld, but there was a lot of welding manufacturing I didn't know. So I was learning too, YouTube videos and whatnot.
What did the team there think? You said a couple times that the culture is good on both sides. Was the culture good when you got there? Did you do similar things that Sarah did? How did that evolve?
Same. We ended up letting go a number of people in the front office.
So really, you say she's venting to you, but she's probably giving you training.
She's probably giving me training.
Telling you what to do and how to think about things.
Exactly.
Thanks, honey.
Yeah. No, of course. She's had a different experience, with that large company that I didn't have. And, the culture thing that she brought in was, I think, key. And we passed that along to IMC. We do so much for our employees now that there are employees that came to me and said, hey, I just got offered a lot more money, but I really like it here. I'm hoping that I made the right decision. And we're like, yeah, absolutely. So making it what's the word Rachel likes to use, that
family atmosphere,
family-oriented, family-first atmosphere, yeah. So that's helped as well.
Mm-hmm.
If it's hard to find labor here in Minneapolis, it's got to be hard where you are too.
For sure.
Does that make it harder to make decisions, to let people go? And
Absolutely. Yeah, especially we just came off of COVID, and that made it really difficult for sure.
Some people never came back.
I think one of the biggest things that helps us out too is, I know everyone says work-life balance, but we truly live by it. In the 5 years that I've been supervising, I never denied a time off request. Everyone knows that, your family and your personal life comes first. So they're always can take care of what's going on at home, and there's no other company in the area that I know of that does that. So that's huge.
But then they'll also know or see that we're behind schedule, and they'll volunteer to help.
Absolutely, yeah. To your point, we've never had to force overtime either because
it's all been
we always have volunteers to do that. So they help us out as well.
Have you ever felt the culture turn back in a negative direction and had to rescue it in different ways? And how did you know, for those of us that aren't as magical about understanding these things as you are?
Absolutely. You're going to have that from time to time. And there's maybe certain people that don't fit, or even just myself as a leader. I change all the time, and I make mistakes along the way too, where I don't even follow my own mantras perfectly every single day. I wish I did, where I'm having a bad day. And I think that the important thing is just to go back to your original roots of why you're doing what you're doing, and making sure you're reminding your employees of that. It's funny you say that. I have this on my computer monitor. I have a picture of myself as a little girl, and every day, if have a decision that I'm making, and I'm wondering, if I'm making the right decision, or did I handle that situation perfectly? I always look back at that picture and I'm like, okay, would she be proud of that decision I made? Or is that the right way to handle something? And it kind of just brings me back to that ground level.
Maybe I need to do that.
Picture of her as a little girl?
Well, that or me, I don't know.
It's a little motivation.
Do you think that you could have predicted where these two businesses are today back then? Or were you thinking just about survival? What's the
survival?
What's the retrospect?
Well, APS survival for sure.
Yeah.
IMC, I thought, we would eventually get there. it was easier. And we hired some really great people, our HR/salesperson and, Mark, who's been there forever. He's kind of our CFO of both companies. Great people, smart, sharp, all on board to do what we talk about doing. We do it.
You both still provide that energy, right? That forward momentum, the decisions to get better, not just to stay the same. Like that doesn't come for free. Like somebody has to provide that.
Yeah, I think that's really what my job is. I'm reading a lean book right now, and I'm going to give it to her, and I'm going to go back and I've taken lean and TPS,
Sure.
30 years ago, but to, really try to help have everybody have that mentality. And, they're going to point out areas that we wouldn't see.
I've been giving a lot of books like Lean or TPS or 5S or The Goal or something as simple as that.
Everybody's read that one.
We've had these tools for 30 years, and yet people still don't think about their businesses that way. Why?
Yeah, that company I was with, we had twice as many people in admin that we needed, all high-dollar people too. And when we really had to become efficient, I think we became more efficient after they left. But it's funny because I think we all need reminders. I've been doing this for a long time, and I was trained on all that, and I was excited about it. And then life got in the way, and then this got, and we're starting to be successful here. And you kind of forget all those things that got you there until you're reminded about it later, I think.
We're doing this out of order a little bit, but what does APS do? What does IMC do?
Oh, APS, we're a machine shop. So we make customized products for customers in a variety of different areas, industrial, food, automotive.
In IMC?
We're steel fabricator for the railroad industry. We're actually the largest aftermarket supplier of gear cases and plows for the locomotive industry in the world. And we ship to every continent except Antarctic.
They don't have railroads up there, do they?
Not yet.
Antarctica, no. You
One
never
day,
know.
maybe.
You never know, yeah. But no, it's great. There's so much possibility in that industry. The railroad industry is still, I think we were talking about it earlier about if you think about the locomotive and if you were to break it down into every single component that is on the locomotive, there's thousands and thousands of components and suppliers and a lot of opportunity.
So we believe very much in smaller manufacturers and this way that we do manufacturing in America. We invented it. We won a war with it, or so I like to say.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's going to be able to continue?
100%.
Absolutely.
I think there was some discussion during COVID, where the big box store, is that what they called them? Like the Walmarts and,
Yeah.
they were able to stay open, and the small businesses were forced to close, and some of them closed permanently. But from manufacturing standpoint, I think back to one of our customers on APS. They make toilet paper and paper towel packaging machines, and they were the most needy. During that time, toilet paper and paper towels was.
Remember everyone stocked up on that?
Yeah, but yeah, so they were going like gangbusters, supplying to Walmart and some of these big companies. So there were still those small companies that were supplying. So from a manufacturing standpoint, I think there's always going to be a need. on the APS side, we focus on small to medium volume. If it's a million parts a year, probably it's not us. If it's 10 pieces a year to 10,000 pieces a year, right in our wheelhouse. So we focus on that lower run, lower volume, and I think that's always needed. Because you're not going to build 10,000, of something,
Right.
unless you're building Coke cans or something.
That's right. Well, there's a problem. Not everybody has an overqualified daughter to be able to bring in and run one of their shops. What would you say to your previous self to motivate you to get into manufacturing earlier, if you could have?
if you like solving problems, like helping people, it's a great industry to get into. In my personal opinion, it's the backbone of our country. There's so many varieties of manufacturing that people don't even realize exist until you get into it. Math, science, all sorts of stuff.
How did you discover it? What gave you the confidence to be able to say now that it's the backbone of our country? Is it just looking at the CAD drawings that come through, or what's your experience like there?
I mean, everything that you see, everything in this room, I mean, manufacturing is a part of it. And it's until you get your hands dirty and you get inside of that is when you really see manufacturing.
I agree 100%. Every component on these
every tiny little thing.
That's what happens when people work here for a while. That's what they tell their friends. Like, I wouldn't understand that there's this many manufacturers. We have people behind you that are, trying to find perfect manufacturing facilities for us to implement our software with. And the thing that almost everyone says, I had no idea there's this many. I had no idea there's hundreds of thousands of them in the United States alone. So, yeah.
And we're in a small, remote area, and we're the largest aftermarket supplier in the world. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
What would you say, like, how did you, so you watch YouTube videos, but outside of that, who do you talk to? Are there people that you go visit their shops, or how do you exchange information about manufacturing as like a core business?
I've been involved in a number of them. And when we did robotics, we were selling to manufacturing facilities. So I don't know if I did 160 manufacturing facilities, but I probably did 100. And we, so you see a little bit of how people are doing them. The other thing too is, up by us, since we are in a remote area, we don't compete against each other. I think we actually support each other. We used to meet, it's been a couple months now, but every quarter, the local managers, or, I think they used to call it CEO roundtable, we'd get together, the local EDA would get us together, and they'd have lunch, and we'd talk about our problems and some of the things that we could work on. And we shared some knowledge. That's kind of interesting about the UP. Everybody wants everybody else to succeed. We're not cutthroat, I'm going to hire that guy for a nickel more. It's not like that up there by us.
Has it always been like that? It's just part of the culture.
I think it is.
Even when you were logging, everybody just helped each other.
I think there's some of that. If a guy's log truck breaks down and he can't haul his wood to the mill, somebody will come pick it up.
I mean, if your car's broken down on the long side of the road, it'll only take about 2 minutes before someone's going to stop.
Yeah.
And make sure you're okay.
Yep. If there's an accident, every car is going to pull over and find out if they can help.
For sure.
Maybe with a box of pasties so that you can have some
Exactly.
You even
while you're
pronounced it
waiting.
right. Good
Yeah, I
job,
was gonna
Sonny.
say.
Spend some time there.
That's
I was gonna say, that is
impressive.
impressive, because the other word is something else.
Yeah. it is. What would you tell your 26-year-old self, your 14-year-old self, your earlier selves about where you are today?
Buy Amazon.
Never give up?
Did you think about giving up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Day one?
Not day one. A couple weeks in.
Really? You didn't tell me that over coffee.
Oh, it worked out.
Oh, can't tell you everything.
I see that.
No, it worked out in the end.
What got you through it, other than people saying that you couldn't do it?
I didn't want to fail. I had to see it through. If I was going to leave, I wanted to leave on a high note.
And did you ever have any doubts? Do you think yours
No.
going to fail?
I honestly didn't have any doubts. I knew it was going to be tough. I think I did it before, and I didn't know how I did it, but so I didn't have any doubts.
Things are changing a lot, though.
Mm-hmm.
What does it feel like in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan?
Regarding manufacturing or regarding
Everything,
labor force?
technology, workforce, manufacturing.
I think I always hope that we have a buffer, or there's a bit of a lag. Of course, everybody's worried about AI and whatnot, and robotics is still a fear. I think it's still a fear today. I think we're
Not a fear of yours.
No, we're embracing it, and we were talking earlier with some of your staff about using AI, GPT all the time. I mean, I use it regularly
For research.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is embracing the change, right? I mean, technology is huge. Shout out to Fulcrum. We love it. We use it every day. And I think to make those changes and to be able to embrace that stuff is really, it's what's going to put us on the forefront. If you stray away from it, that's where you're going to get left behind. 3D printing, AI, just being able to stay with technology.
Robotics. Someone told me once, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards, which I'm like, yeah, what about just staying still? Well, apparently staying still is moving backwards, because everything is moving forward.
For sure.
We're always looking to improve, do the next thing better, newer equipment, upgrading technology. Like Sarah said, the Fulcrum is most certainly in the right direction.
Yeah, the further I get into manufacturing, the more I'm like, God, there's so many technology gaps. Like, how is it stuck so it got lost?
Mm-hmm.
It's the curse of being first. Manufacturing was always first. It was the first database for a manufacturer for Toyota. It was actually for the Polaris project. They made a bunch of rockets, and then Toyota stole it. Stanley Black & Decker, first ERP system.
Really?
First MRP, like algorithmic, 1981 for Toyota as well. All these systems, manufacturing first computers with a CNC machine for manufacturing. So I think everybody's like, we are technology.
Sure.
Kind of rested on that for too long.
Yep.
And then we got a bunch of cheap labor in China, and so we took a break for a couple decades.
Sure.
But shit's about to get real.
Yeah, I think
I'm excited.
I'm excited too.
Does your team share this enthusiasm for technology? Does your culture help with that? Or how would you characterize how they feel?
Some do, some don't. I think the biggest thing is building value in that technology and the change and how it helps improve their jobs, makes their job easier, right?
So value for them.
Correct.
Or value for like the component they're making.
Right, and makes their lives easier, right?
The people who are afraid, what are they afraid of?
That's going to replace my job.
That robot's going to replace my job.
Or I just don't know enough about it. I'm used to something being the same way for the last 30 years. And I mean, even with CNC machines, there's a lot of it that hasn't changed for a long time. So I think people are scared of change. That's natural.
It's strange though, since in manufacturing, if you don't have CNC machines, if you're just using a bunch of manual lathes, you probably aren't in business, right?
That's correct.
Technology has been the great decider for manufacturers for decades. So to me, it's somewhat like crazy that people are resistant to it.
Yeah, there's so much history of showing that if you don't, like the guy didn't want a CNC machine, he's no longer getting business, unfortunately. And there's probably something else out there. It's probably the robotic side of it. It's probably the integration of our machines and our systems.
You don't want a website. You don't want an online store.
Right.
So embracing it.
Where do you hope you'll be in 10 years? Other
Retired.
than more golf.
Retired, more golf.
I hope we continue to grow so that we can continue to build our team, give back to our community that we love to live in.
Yes. We donate a lot. We give back a lot. And it's been great.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing your story.
Thanks for having us.
People
thank you.
It was super
really
fun.
Enjoy it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks.